Okay, I'm going to be very pleased to introduce Dr. David Joseph, who will be leading our next general session with our students. He held 2 of our breakout sessions today on creating a climate of wellness for returning veterans. He currently provides treatment for veterans at the Oakland Vet Center. Dr. David Joseph.
So thank you, everybody. Some of you have been listening to me talk for a couple of hours now, and the best remedy for that is for me to stop talking and to introduce our panelists, the stars of today's show, to give as much as you heard about from me and from the other presenters about student veterans. The most important thing is for us to have a chance to actually hear from our student veterans. And so we've invited some of the very best to be with us today. And what we're going to do, the way this format is going to work, is we have kind of a list of structured questions that I'm going to ask them. They're each going to answer. We're going to get through those questions, and then afterwards we're going to open it up to all of you to ask any questions of them. All right, so the first question that I will ask them, and we'll just start in this order and come back the other way, is for each of you to just state your name, age, branch of service, and school that you attend or have attended.
Hello everyone, I'm Juan Ortiz. I'm 25 years old. I got out of the Marine Corps in 2010, and I'm currently going to Miramar College, majoring in psychology, later transfer on.
Hi, I'm Danielle Thober. I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years. I'm 23. I attend Miramar College, but take classes throughout the whole San Diego district, and my major is international relations. I'm transferring to University of Nebraska-Lincoln in January.
Hi everyone, my name is Crystal Vander Arney. I am 25 years old. I got out of the Navy in 2010, and I'm majoring in business management and will be transferring to San Francisco State University.
Tim Smith, United States Army, now Army Reserves. My college is Miramar, and my major is legal assisting. I have about another year to go before I finish up my degree.
Hello, my name's Steven Soto. I'm 25 years old from United States Navy. I currently go to San Diego State University studying international security conflict resolution, and I just transferred from Pasadena City College.
Keep it there. Keep it there, and we'll come back the other way. Keep it there. So if you could just talk to us a little bit about each of you, what you did in the military, what your MOS or job was, if you deployed, where you went, and just a little bit about what your experience was in the military.
I was an aviation technician working on radar systems for Harrier aircrafts on board the USS Peleliu. Deployed on a Western Pacific deployment to the Middle East in 2008. And my military experience was working on circuit boards of radars. So.
10 years total time in service, 5.5 Arizona Army National Guard, 3 U.S. Army, now 2 years Army Reserves. My background, which I've had throughout all my 10 years, is working as a paralegal. I have a deployment to Kuwait in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom in 2004 and 2005, and then a deployment to the Republic of Korea with a Patriot missile unit in 2008 and 2009.
I worked on helicopters. I was an aviation mechanic for 5 years. I never deployed. Not sure how that happened, but I never deployed. So I just was working on helicopters. That's all I did.
I'm an administrator. I was at Miramar for the majority of my tour. I did deployment to the Middle East, to Afghanistan, Kuwait, and Qatar in Operation Enduring Freedom, and that's it.
I was stationed at Miramar here in Mira Mesa. I worked on CH-53 Echoes. I'm pretty sure many of you have seen them fly over your house, most likely. I did one deployment to Afghanistan, one to Djibouti, Africa, and then a MU, where we went to Okinawa, Japan, Australia, Philippines, and Thailand.
All right. And going back the other way, can you talk a little bit about any readjustment challenges that you had getting out of the military, things that were surprising to you, things that were difficult or a little bit challenging, and particularly in general, talk a little bit about those, but also talk about, in particular, any readjustment challenges you had as you entered the community college system and became a student again? And we'll go back again this way.
The biggest difficulty I had, I'd say I had a pretty good transition in general. The only difficulty I had was entering the student community. It was very unique seeing how other students would do things and maybe not be prepared for some things, and things that you were just taught in the military is common sense, like showing up to a class with a pencil. I still don't understand how people will show up without a pencil, without a pen, and they'll ask you, do you have a pen? That was the biggest one, and we had mentioned this earlier, how students were disrespectful to teachers. And it's obvious to us, like we see it because that's what we were trained to do, to correct others, to better society. And it's really difficult just seeing somebody else doing it and then letting nobody else kind of like saying anything about it. But you don't know if you want to say something because then you don't want to be singled out as, you know, the irrational, correct everybody guy, so.
Yeah, I completely agree with what Juan said. Transitioning into the student community, I think, was the hardest part about getting out of the Marine Corps. As far as the Marine Corps goes, they really prepare you for civilian life, and you'd think that for most of us here, being a civilian was what we were the majority of our lives. But now, after being in the military, we're now veterans, and going back to being a civilian, it's hard. It's a hard transition. It's like a different world. And students, go back to the blatant disrespect for teachers, will be texting during class and just don't understand how they think that that's okay. And so just kind of having to learn to interact with students who maybe just got out of high school and still live with their parents, that I think was the hardest part. And just to be on campus and to see the people breaking rules on campus. Like, I think the biggest problem I have is to see people speeding on campus. Like, that drives me insane. You could run somebody over. And on, like, I was at Miramar, the base, and you can stop people and correct them. And if you are higher ranked than they are, they will just say good to go and have a nice day. And if maybe they're a higher rank than you are, that you might get corrected as well. But nobody really second guesses you. If you correct someone, they're good to go, okay. But on college, that could start a fight. It could start a confrontation, and that's just not something that we're used to.
I didn't really have any difficult time transitioning. I was going to school all throughout my 5 years, so I kind of mingled with everybody. I would say, I guess the structure, I miss the structure. There's no time limits on anything, and it's frustrating sometimes when, you know, you really want structure. I need structure. But other than that, I had a very easy transition from being in the military and coming out. It wasn't too bad.
My biggest transition of getting back to civilian life was the time that I got out of the military. I got out in December 2009, and I wanted to get into college right away. So between the amount of time that I actually got out of the Army towards the end of December and got back in was just a matter of weeks. It took the VA a lot of time to process my paperwork and to get things going up and running with the school. But fortunately, I had some good VA reps that I was working with at Miramar, so I got a lot of things done in a relatively quick amount of time and had a seamless transition. So overall, it's been pretty good.
I think the biggest challenges that I've faced was creating a new self-identity for yourself. When you're in the military, you have an identity that you are. You know who you are. You know what to do. And when you get out, you have that stripped from you. And now you have to kind of create your own new self-identity of who you are. And when I was going to that, I wanted to be a college student. But I didn't know what it's like to be a college student. And I didn't have the resources available ready to me my very first semester at a community college to have that. Now, it was there, but it wasn't, I didn't know about it. And so to create a new self-identity, it happened, obviously, but, the hardest part was finding out how to create that identity to find out who you are now.
So that was tough for you, a little bit, yeah. What about, guys, and just jump in, anyone who has something to add, what were you hoping for in terms of attending school? What were some of the reasons that you went to school? What were you hoping for? Anybody just jump right in.
As far as myself, I trying to get a degree and kind of move on with my life. The military was a chapter in my life that I completed successfully and would do it again if I had the chance. But now it's time to move on and going to the community college, especially in California. I'm not from California originally, I'm from Nebraska, so being an out-of-state student originally I really didn't have another option. I took the ACT when I was in high school, but I think for California you need the SAT. So going to a university wasn't an option for me at first. So the community college was my first step to getting the degree that I wanted and to get the future that I want.
All right. Who else wants to jump in?
For me, it was getting into psychology. I was undecided what I wanted to do at first, but the more I was in the Marine Corps, the more I thought some things were changing in me. So instead of pursuing other careers in the military, I got out and I'm currently pursuing psychology. It was awesome being in the Marine Corps because it's like standing on the shoulders of a giant. I feel so thankful now that my education is not something I have to worry about on a first-hand basis. And that was kind of like the easiest thing about getting out, knowing that I don't have to worry about that as much.
I chose to go to college because I wanted to make an impact on society. I also want to be financially stable and a well-off taxpayer, and I want to make a difference. So.
My purpose for going to school was to get an associate's degree in legal assisting studies. In the paralegal field right now, you need to have that. It's a credential that a lot of employers that I've been looking at need. So even though I have several years of experience, both civilian and military, it was a very specific reason for me to come back to school.
I chose to go to school because I would be the only person in my family to actually have completed a degree. So it was a really huge thing for me to want to accomplish. So that's what I'm looking forward to, and that's my main goal, is to just get that bachelor's degree. I got 2 years left, and that's my huge goal.
Maybe starting from here and going back, if you could talk about a personal story of a classroom or school experience that had a positive impact on you, or that was positive for you, and one experience at school that was not a positive experience in terms of being a student veteran.
One of the positive things was at first, my first semester was pretty bad, but the best thing that could have happened in that semester was I met another veteran, and it was as simple as somebody in front of me with a haircut I recognized, and I asked him a question about the VA, about different kinds of benefits, because I was still curious on some things. And he's still a friend that I talk to this day, and it's just one of the good things knowing that when you look at everybody else and you kind of think that you're singled out, it's nice to know that there's other veterans out there that you can talk to. As far as one of the bad experiences, I can't really say I've had any. Like I said, I've been really grateful for getting my education, for everything that's been going on for me. The only bad thing, like I said, is students that I don't understand, but...
As far as a positive thing that's happened to me is on the first day of classes, a lot of teachers will ask you to kind of go around the room, tell something about yourself, and I think that's a really great thing to do because you do find the other veterans in the classroom. And for my major, I needed a foreign language, and I chose to speak French. And that first semester, I didn't know anybody at the school, let alone in the class. So to kind of find the other veterans in the classroom that had similar experiences to me, that had been on a deployment, those are the people that I gravitated towards and made friends with. As far as negative experiences, as far as being a veteran, this doesn't really apply, but like how the San Diego Community College District didn't have classes in the summer, and veterans, that a lot of us, that's the housing allowance for what we get for going to school is our only income, especially in California because there's no jobs. One that I had particularly in the school is I have a professor currently that will make snide comments about the military, and will kind of just say, like, one of the comments he had made was, just because you're military intelligence doesn't mean you're intelligent. Like, I'm not military intelligence, so I'm not greatly offended, but I think that those comments, like, that would just be like making a religious comment, and that wouldn't be tolerated nowadays. So I think that maybe everybody, not just teachers, fellow students, need to kind of watch what they say because they don't know necessarily who is in the classroom. I would never make a racial or religious comment in the classroom because I feel other people would be offended. And I guess another positive thing is Miramar is my primary campus, and I like the teachers at Miramar. The ones that I've had there are very good, and they're very understanding, and maybe it's because we are so close to the actual base, but they're super nice. I haven't had a bad experience at the Miramar. The class I'm referring to now is at another San Diego district college, so.
All right, my positive is I also go to Miramar, and I absolutely love that school. The VA rep there is she has made my transition very easy for me. When you go to her, she knows all the answers, and if not, she knows where to go to get them. And so I've never had an issue with her. I'm very satisfied and happy with how that's gone. And I guess a negative, this is not having to do with Miramar, it would be the other school districts. When I had to go in, like she said, for when the schools closed down, City, Mesa, and when they closed down, we had to go branch out and find other schools. So I went to another school, and just the VA reps were not knowledgeable at all, and anything that I needed to find out and what to do, because I had to do paperwork all over again. So I think that if they're going to employ people at a veteran office, they need to be knowledgeable of the military and what possible questions they will be asked.
So you felt, if I could just jump in, you felt like the school could have done a little bit more training?
I do. I feel like it's a specific job title. It's a Veterans Affairs office. You should be knowledgeable of Veterans Affairs and what we're. I'm just saying, I feel like I know we have some weird lingo, but I would like to be able to go in and talk to somebody and not be looked at like I'm crazy. So that would be my only advice, is to give more training if you're going to employ them in that office, because we solely depend on that office.
My positive experience has been the VA rep at Miramar. She has consistently been a solid performer. And where we have people in place who can help us in counseling offices, in the VA reps offices, this is a big asset. So for me, the biggest positive experience that I've had, transition, continuation from semester to semester, was the VA rep at Miramar College. The negative experience that I've had was that a couple of the faculty that I've had over my time, and I've gone to both Miramar and Mesa, and also to the city for a couple of my classes. I'm in the reserves, and I continued on with my military career because I want to finish out and do my retirement, do my 20, perhaps more. And I was placed in a particularly tough bind at the beginning of the semester. I was placed on active duty orders to go to Fort Jackson, South Carolina for 11 days at the beginning of the semester. One of my teachers put me in a position where it was either go to her class or not go to that duty, because I was told that if I didn't go, I would be dropped. I had to tell my chain of command that if I did that duty, that I would lose that class, and it would have a ripple effect for me across a lot of things, namely my GI Bill funding for the semester. That put me in a lot of trouble with my chain of command, and I took a lot of heat for that, a heck of a lot of heat. To some extent, what we do in the military is kind of like the civilian world, to the extent that we can turn down duty, but if we do so at our own peril. And if I turn down duty, even if it's reserve for a few days, I do so at the peril of my career. And I don't think it was fair to me to have been put in this kind of a position. What I would like and hope is that some official policy will be put in place that will essentially be more vet friendly, be more reserve friendly, so that we can get a break and have some of what we do count as an excused absence, so it's not held against us, and possibly even, look at some official policy whereby maybe we get an incomplete. But I want to say overall that this represents a very distinct minority of the professors and the faculty that I've had to deal with. Almost all, with just a few exceptions, have been very vet friendly, have been very understanding, and have been very easygoing and easy to deal with. And just one more thing along the lines of what Danielle said. I have had some express negative comments about the war in Iraq and about the military. I understand that there are a lot of people who oppose the war, but all of us here did our duty, and that's what our nation asked of us. And I don't think it's fair to be slamming us as individuals against a wall just because we did what our leaders asked of us.
I think the most positive experience for me at a community college was the fact that there was a veteran resource center. So if you haven't seen the pamphlet for Pasadena City College, check it out. It's amazing. On another note, though, seriously, that's a place that I was able to call home. And that was a place that I could go to, that I could meet other veterans that have either been in community college a semester ahead of me, that had more information than I had, that could give me information so I could pass that on to the next veteran that stepped through the front door. And it molded me to who I am today, and that's why I'm so actively involved with veterans, because of the fact that there was a resource center on campus, and it was a place that people could come to, and whether you're doing homework, you're looking for tutoring, you're looking for help on classes or teachers, that was a centrally located place on campus that veterans could go to. And the reason that I hold it so deeply is the fact that I went from a small office to an actual resource center with I think it's 8 computers and 2 TBI computers that are specialized for people with learning disabilities. And the importance of that is to be able to have veterans who need to use this software in an environment where they feel comfortable, because you don't want to have to send them off somewhere else where they feel uncomfortable, because then they won't learn to their maximum potential. So that being there, veterans are able to feel, in with their own veterans and able to relate with everyone else. So that's a positive experience. A negative experience is the fact of trying to get that veteran resource center and having to deal with administration and, being among my peers, seeing people who have been on deployments and seeing whatever they having to fight another war against your board of trustees to try to get a resource center. And, I think veteran resource centers should be at every community college without any type of fight. That should be something that if you don't have 775 square feet on your campus, I don't know. It's just physically exhausting and mentally exhausting, not only to the student veterans, but the faculty that support the veterans on that campus to try to get this implemented. And, now that we have veteran resource centers, around California, we have a structure that we can use to make sure that veterans don't have this problem again. And that way they can have what they need and go from there, so.
All right. I'm going to just remind you of a couple. We had a chat about this stuff last night, and it's hard to remember everything that you guys said, but 2 things that you talked about that haven't come out yet today, and maybe you could talk to, was some of you talked about feeling like it took a little while to actually learn about what services were available or what benefits were available. And I'm not sure who that happened to, but was that you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so could you talk just a little bit about that too, and maybe what the schools could do to improve that?
When I first went to City College, I don't think it was as big as it is now, because obviously you learn after change. But as simple as, getting put on an email system coded in with your school to get put out through your veteran center, so you get emails about when a meeting is that you can meet with other student veterans, or, getting that coded vet so you can have that. And I didn't have that, and I'm fortunate to find the Veterans Club to, get me organized. But you know, the school could definitely, you know, when you enroll in a campus, when you go to an orientation, you know, have that flyer inside that packet that says Veterans Club meets this day, Veteran Center's over here. Go to the, you know, the VA certifying official over here, and you know, that's something that could just be printed out at a little under 5 cents a copy, and that could save a life. So I mean, that's something that should be offered no matter what. That should be posted around campus. That should be right on, like when student veterans come out of the military and they go to college, they look on websites and find out what community college they want to go to, what college they want to go. And so have that link a little bit different than something else, so it stands out a little bit more. So a veteran could click that link, could find out the information that veteran needs. And that's something that literally will take minimal time and would save a lot and do a lot more. So
I have something to add to that. As far as Miramar College goes, because that's been my primary campus for the majority of my education, that first, when I started going to school there, their website was, I have no idea even what to say about it. It was crazy. They changed it though, and it's a lot better now, and now I can actually find where the Veterans Resource button is. And as to talk about what Crystal was saying earlier was, our Veterans Affairs office at Miramar is great. We have to put our email on like the papers that we sign just going in there to be a student on Miramar. And Tina puts that into her computer or whatever they do over there, and I get emails weekly from her, sometimes a couple a day, which I don't even mind. Some people get annoyed because it's spam, but I don't care. If I'm not going to go to the event that she's speaking about, at least I know about it. That's my choice now to not attend it. But she gives us the resources that we need on Miramar to know that there are veterans events going on, and it saves money. If you don't want to print out the bright pink flyers, send an email. Most people have smartphones. It goes straight to their phone. They can look at it and they can ignore it if they want, but at least they know.
Just not during class, right?
Just don't get caught.
One other thing that came up yesterday was a conversation about career counseling. I think, Tim, that you had talked about in terms of helping with resume creation, that actually really touched on something that you brought up earlier in terms of translating your military experience, right? So maybe talk about that.
There is. The military teaches a lot of really valuable skills that translate over into civilian life. And in the career resources centers at the community colleges in the San Diego Community College District and in some others that I've gone to, there is little or no assistance at all in being able to help us translate what we've done, what we've learned through the years, through our military education and our training into civilian equivalents. And given how bad the economy is right now and how tough things are for vets as well as for everybody else, this would be a very good chance to help us as veterans to develop something in place in the career centers to help us translate what we've done into civilian equivalents, because employers, a lot of them appreciate the training that the military has given us. It would be useful if somebody could help us translate what we learned in our careers in the military into some civilian equivalents to help us find jobs in this tough economy.
I think what you're talking about too, I don't want to put words in your mouth, is not just what you learned, but what you've accomplished, right? To take those accomplishments and translate that into viable resume speak that employers will be suitably impressed by, right? Yeah, please.
To add in on that, I agree with what he's saying completely. I feel like if there was a merger between like the Veterans Affairs and Cal CareWorks and like the EOPS office, for example, at Miramar, between those three to help streamline something for veterans, for us to help with our resumes, because coming out of the Marine Corps, we received TAP and TAM classes to reintroduce us into a civilian life. Part of those classes were how to build a resume, and I learned a lot of those skills and I still use them, but I believe it's one of those things that you just gotta update your resume, and it's nice to have fresh information on there. And it is difficult sometimes finding ways to translate the skill set that we had. For example, when we would just lead Marines, for example, in a shop, you would direct people to maintenance. It's a little difficult to translate that into civilian world, saying you stood behind a desk and you made things happen. So it'd be nice to have somebody like help you, not just with your resume, but translate your resume and then help you place that resume possibly.
I have something to add to that. As far as what I want to say about the Tampa Taps, that's our transition out of the military course. And I'm not sure if what the other branches do, but as far as the Marine Corps, they really kind of urge us to go, and we have to go. In order to get out of the Marine Corps, we have to go to a Timp and Tap class. But I received a ton of information, but one in particular is a book, and it has examples of resumes, cover letters, thank you letters. So if that was available to us in a community college level, that would even be helpful. And if the college or even like the student veterans could get in contact with the TAMPS people, I mean, for us in particular, because we're Miramar, it's literally like 5 blocks away. If someone could walk over there and say like, hey, can we get this information from you, or can we copy what you guys are doing? Because a lot of people, maybe other branches of service don't offer quite the extensive class that Miramar does offer, but it really helped us, and it helped me because I still have that book, and I've been out for over a year now, and I don't keep a lot of things.
When I was getting out of the Army, we were only given 6 months of transitional assistance for being able to go to a military base and being able to use their Career Resources Center, or the equivalents of TAP and TAMP. And if I could have some kind of assistance that could help me and perhaps other vets to carry on, that would be much appreciated. So if there's some kind of outreach that could be done to some of the military bases here in San Diego, or perhaps other cities and community colleges where there's some military bases close by, this would be very, very helpful to us as veterans. Because I keep in the reserves, it's been beneficial to me because I can go on to Miramar and use the Career Resources Center, but not all vets have that luxury.
So last thing we're going to go before we open it up to all of you to ask questions is just, you've talked a little bit about it, but just touch on some of your goals for the future, where you think you're heading, if you know. Just kind of touch on that a little bit, if you could.
So I'll be graduating from San Diego State in about a year and a half, and I plan to go pursue a higher education, getting a joint JD MBA program. Cross my fingers on that. I would like to become a veteran advocate for veterans with disabilities, whether it's working with some type of nonprofit organization or with the VA. Either way, as long as I'm able to help out, that's all that matters to me. So that's where I ultimately see myself always advocating for veterans.
My goal, once I finish up in probably about a year or so, is to go to work in the federal government, preferably in the Department of Justice.
I will be hopefully transferring to San Francisco State University next fall, and I haven't really decided yet on which way to take my business management degree. I really do miss working on aircraft, so I'll probably do something with aviation, airport management, to at least put it to good use. So that's probably.
Like I said earlier, I'm transferring to the University of Nebraska in January, actually, so in a couple weeks I'll be making that long trip. My major is international relations, so I'm going to continue that and then hopefully get into Georgetown Law after that and become a lawyer and continue working with veterans. The VA is something that is really important to me. I had 2 uncles that were in Vietnam, and so being military appreciation is really big in my family, and it's just something that it's almost like some people believe in their church. I believe in the military, so that I will continue to work with veterans.
My final goal is a PhD in psychology, so I don't have a lot of school in front of me. Maybe more if I party harder, I don't know. Ultimately, what I'd like to do is something along the lines of counseling, marriage counseling, veterans counseling as well. Anything where I can put my help to use in the community.
Outstanding. Well, thank you all very much for all of your comments, and I'm gonna just open it up. As you talk, please stand up, talk really loudly, so we can hear it all the way up here. And yeah, can we do that? Okay.
Or if you can repeat your question.
Or I'll repeat your question. Okay. Yeah, please.
All the things I've heard, I haven't heard anyone talk about community college veterans resources or programs
So you haven't heard anything about support for families?
Families as representations that, representing the vets. We see the vets, and often so many issues come from families, for many vets who are having lots of trouble. And I don't know if that would be a useful thing, but I'd like your opinions on if that's possible. Anything that we can do to help you and your family, whether it's direct or indirect.
So the question is, for these guys, is would it be useful to also have more support or direct support for families around transition issues and school issues?
I don't know if I speak for myself here, but I'm kind of a little young to have a family so far. But it is a great idea, and I think if you put that assistance, put those resources alongside with the VA offices at school, if it's on a flyer, if it's on the board, we're going to look at it if we're standing there waiting for an appointment. So it's definitely a great idea, and I think, yeah, it'd be excellent to see that around. Like I said, I'm pretty sure I speak for myself, but I know there's others there that have families, so that would be a great idea. Thank you.
I am also too young to have a family. However, I know that, I'm not sure as far as it goes with veterans, but I know if you're active duty, they offer all sorts of resources to spouses and children. I don't know exactly how that transitions into once getting out of the military and you're now just a veteran spouse. So yeah, definitely, it would definitely be something good if they don't already have that implemented to look into.
I think, as we know, as you know, an active person serving overseas, their significant others serving back at home, and that's very critical and valuable. And I think, you know, a solution or something that could help with that situation to kind of help that ease of that transition, especially if they have dependents, for veterans to be able to use the child development centers for daycare. And resources like that would be great for, you know, helping out, and advocating for that shouldn't be an issue at all. That should be something that could be kind of, should flow right easily.
Yeah.
When I get out of the Army, I never really had any problems or issues like that, but I do know a lot of vets who have had, some who have been students that I've had classes with over the semesters. And any kind of assistance that could be provided to vets and their families would most definitely be appreciated.
Great, guys. Thanks. Yeah, Dave.
I already heard from one of you guys, but how many of the 5 of you are first-generation college students, meaning that your family, in terms of your parents, your mom or your dad, did not attend a college or university? Okay, so the other 3, you had parents that attended a college or university, correct? Okay. The next thing I want to ask then is, in terms of when you're going through the transition process, whether it was TAP, you know, you're checking out of your unit, whether it was a career planner, it was an officer, staff NCO, or TAP instructor, how many times did you have someone ask you, what is your vision of where you want to be in 5 years after you get out of the military? Did any of you have someone ask you that?
Yeah, during the TAP class, I'm not sure what this gentleman's name is, but I know he's done the TAP class on the base Miramar for a long time. And he'll have us actually stand up in front of the entire room, which is maybe like half the amount of people that are in here that are going through the same course, and interview us as if we are in an interview, like just on the spot. Oh, you want to be a lawyer? Good. What kind of lawyer? Why should I hire you? These type of questions. And then he'll have the room rate you. Like, would you hire her as a lawyer? But yeah, so he has us we fill out all sorts of paperwork, and the TAP class on the base Miramar was a lot of help to me as far as to answer your question about that.
The reason I ask, okay, did anybody else have that same experience?
I was never asked that. When I was going through my transition classes for the Army, they were just more focused on where I would be once I got out, helping me develop a resume and helping me do more things for what would be ahead maybe in the next 6 months to a year. Nobody ever really took me aside and bothered to ask me, okay, where do you want to see yourself in 5, 10 years from now? Nobody ever said, you know, how could we help you develop an education plan or anything like that. It was just more of an immediate focus. I can't speak for the branches beyond the Army, though.
I did actually have the same experience as she did, Navy. They did we did practice interviews on each other, on, the teacher versus student. I mean, we did the same thing. We had to sit there for hours and write stuff, and so it was, and I still have all my books, so, yeah.
However, that only works if the veterans actually know what they want to do. I know, speaking for the Marine Corps, and 90% of the Marines that got out around the same time I did, all they wanted to do was just be out of the Marine Corps. They didn't care. You would ask, what are you going to do after Marine Corps? I don't care. And so if you don't have a plan, that process didn't really work.
So I think you're saying it may be helpful for some folks to ask that question more than once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For myself and my chain of command, that was one of the questions I was asked often, even between coworkers. It was like a really good climate of concern as towards what you're going to do, what's your next big step. Because for a lot of us, it is a big step getting out, and for some it's so big that they don't know what to do with it and they just want to get out. But yeah, we were asked that a lot.
And I guess the last thing with that then is the fact that you were asked to have a vision, because the very fact that you guys had experience, that's great, because a lot of people didn't have that experience, but also in terms of getting out, having a detailed action plan of how you're going to accomplish that vision. It sounds like both of you actually had an action plan as well, what steps you're going to accomplish?
Not necessarily an action plan. I think, and talking to some friends that got out around the same time I did, me personally, I'm taking an extra class every semester because I want the GI Bill to pay for my bachelor's degree because I'm continuing on to law school. But I have a friend who didn't really know what she wanted to do, so she took some classes just to get the housing allowance to pay her bills, and then she's like, okay, cool, now this is my major. I've just wasted a year of my GI Bill, so now that's another year of college that I have to pay out of my own pocket. So not everybody had necessarily a set plan. They just knew, I'm going to college to get the money, and hopefully in the meantime I get a degree.
That was also to, on top of what she was saying, I felt a lot of people just do want to get out, and that's not, you really need to have a plan, because I have a couple of friends who are hurting right now, but I definitely made sure I had step-by-step plans before I got out, because I heard horror stories and I didn't want to be one of those.
So over here and then over here.
I'm gonna try to work this thing. To kind of follow up with David's questions, what I'd like to know specifically is, when you went through the TAPS process, did the TAPS instructor teach you this is how you apply for your GI Bill? Did they teach you anything about the FAFSA? Did they teach you anything about how credits will transfer? And to follow on that last part, did you go to college expecting your SMART transcript, or the Army has a different acronym, to work for something and it didn't, or did it?
I'm really glad you brought that question up about the SMART transcripts. I was actually disappointed with my SMART transcripts. I had done a lot of MCI courses, and I found that few, if any of them,
Translate some of the acronyms for everybody.
Marine Corps Institute.
MCIs are these little correspondence course books. It's kind of like a course in a book. You just get it through the mail, you complete it, send it back.
Math for Marines and such.
Yeah.
Math for Marines and such, exactly. That's how I learned mine.
Which more people need to do.
And a lot of them didn't transfer over, and I was kind of disappointed because I felt like some of them could be college credits and would be a valuable class. And then as far as actually how to fill out a FAFSA, none of that was, it was informed to me in my TAPS class, but it was something that was more like, I got to college, I went to the student aid office, and then I kind of learned how to do it on my own. But it's not like somebody sat down and taught us the specific applications, no.
The Army was very helpful to me in getting my paperwork filed for the post 9/11 GI Bill. I had it done probably about 1 to 2 months before I actually got out. The Army equivalent of the MCI is what we call the ATARS. My ATARS was almost practically useless to me when I got out. I had to take college transcripts from other schools that I had gone to and have those translated. They were more effective at translating out anything than what the military gave me.
When I went through TAPS class at 32nd Street, San Diego, I didn't have any of that. So I think that'd be a great tool to have, especially when you're running with a program from the 70s that's 500 slides that people are sleeping through because it's just so dull. So it would be great to have resources readily available. And I'm just saying because most people seem like they've had a proactive TAPS manager, but in my case, it seemed like they found the oldest guy at the DAV and had this guy lead this program, and it just wasn't. It didn't seem that useful to me, and that's where I see where you're coming with, and I hope they do change that process to make it easier for us.
Well, that leads me to the meat of what I want to get out of you guys. How could the TAPS and TAMPS program work, in your opinion, work with higher education to prepare, soon-to-be veterans for college specifically, not necessarily for the workforce, but specifically to re-enter college?
As far as that goes, I know when I went to TAPS class, they really did just gear it toward going into the workforce, like what to wear to interview and that kind of thing. And so picking my classes for my first semester was, I kind of just chose and then went in there. You do have to meet with a counselor, which is good. However, it's kind of like, well, you probably will change your major 3 or 4 times before you finalize it. So in order to get the TAPS and on board with trying to help you find your major, we need to probably get a counselor, either a student counselor to go in with the TAPS, or to get the counselors on base to be a little more proactive about, hey, like you need to take these classes to get this major, because I was kind of up in the air, and it wasn't until actually I'm transferring to a university next semester that I will have one counselor throughout my entire remaining 2 years in school, and I've been in contact with her several times already. She sat me down, on the phone, because obviously I didn't go back to Nebraska, and went through, this is your major, this is what you transferred from San Diego in your SMART transcripts, which the only thing that transferred from the Marine Corps was I don't have to take a PE class now. And she sat me down and said, well, this transfers for this part of it, here's what transfers for that, and it helped me out a lot, so I knew I wasn't taking double classes.
I think it'd be valuable to have the DoD work together with the California Community Colleges and the Employment Development Department, kind of like how they have those one-stop career centers. You could have something with education at those offices. So that not only when the veteran goes to apply for unemployment when he gets out of the service, he or she can know what their options are, whether it's going to be to go into the work field or go to college. And if you want to go to college, these are the steps you need to do, and break it down into something. So that way it looks a lot easier for the veteran to see. So that's something that can be done at the TAPS to kind of make that transition, I think, a little bit more smoother.
Outstanding.
When I was going through TAP in the Army, I was getting out at Fort Bliss in Texas, and they gave no preparation whatsoever on how to go back to college or how to select your major or anything like that. It was similar to what my other colleagues had found. It was just much more focused on employment, and that's good, but a lot of vets are going back to college to update their job skills, and that would have been more useful.
So, I think one of the messages that we get from what you're saying is that the levels of training and the levels of preparation are really varied and kind of dependent on who it was that was doing your course and where you were and what stage of life you might have been in. So some folks are getting really, really good preparation and others less. That's what seems to come out of that. Yeah, please.
First, thanks for being here. Today we've talked a lot about the kind of experiences people have in the military that they can then bring into the classroom. I'd like to ask each of you to think for a second, what's the thing that you're most proud of from your time in the service? Maybe a large responsibility you had or a large accomplishment or something like that.
Great question.
As far as how it applies into the classroom, is that what you're asking?
No, the experience that you had in the military that you're most proud of, that was a formative experience for you. It doesn't necessarily have to relate to the classroom, but I think a lot of people here who haven't served in the military may not know the kinds of responsibilities and things that you get to do while you're in service.
I'd say for me, and maybe it's going to be for most of us, was the completion of our first deployment. A deployment is like a 7-month ride through hell. It's not fun. You're not going to enjoy it. You'll probably live if you're one of the lucky ones, you'll live. But it's just one of those really big events because it encompasses so much leading up to it, during it, and then coming back from a deployment. So for me, my biggest accomplishment was getting back from deployment, knowing I was safe and sound, that I didn't go crazy, and I had more deployments left to come.
For myself, being a Marine was what I'm the most proud of. The Marine Corps is, I mean, I don't even have words for it. We're a proud branch of service, and there's not a lot like us. So that, in general, that's what I'm the most proud of. I got out as a corporal, so I was in charge of Marines. I had great leaders. I had not so great leaders, but I was able to tell the difference. And now it just made me who I am today, more so than what I did before the Marine Corps. So just being a Marine in general is what I'm most proud of.
Yeah, I didn't deploy, so I didn't have that luxury. But I would say same thing as she said. It's just being a part of something huge, and some people like it, some people don't. But it was a huge accomplishment, and I went in not all that smart. I was smart, but I just was rebellious and all that. But it really kicks your butt, and you are so much more mature when you get out. Some, not all, but you grow up real fast, and you are in charge of people. Even though you may be only 20 years old, you will be in charge of 2-3 people, and it's a good feeling because they hold a lot of responsibility to you sometimes. So.
Going through my first deployment to the Persian Gulf was very definitely an eye-opening experience for me, because I had only been a soldier in the National Guard who did their duty 1 weekend a month, and that was really about it. So for me, it was also similar of an eye-opening or wake-up experience that I did enjoy, and was really defining in terms of my career. I think the other thing that really defined my career and that I'm really proudest of was when I became a sergeant, a non-commissioned officer. For me, that was one of the most profound and proud moments of my career. And as an NCO now, I consider that to be a badge of great pride.
I think my most proud moment is probably my first proud moment of the military, and that was getting an evaluation. And for those of you that don't know, when it's going time, you get evaluations before you're about to get promoted and whatnot. And my evaluation was a must promote. And for me, reading the evaluation, the people that were above me, they had faith in my work skills and my abilities for me to do what I did, to believe in me. And so I hold that closest to me, to know that people had faith and belief in me, and that only made me go stronger and harder. So that's what I hold closest to me.
Outstanding. Some other questions, yeah.
Thanks. I'm loud, but this is better. I wanted to ask Tim to talk a little bit more about that experience with the faculty member who would not accommodate your deployment. I'm curious whether you had any support at the college to try to deal with that situation, or was it just between you and the faculty member, or did you try going to the dean, or was there any way for you to try to get through that at the college, or was there more the college could do to facilitate others in a situation like that?
I don't know what redress would be available for me in the college, maybe talking to a dean, something like that. I really don't have a common frame of reference. I know that if I were having problems with something in the military, I would just go and talk to a certain individual. Or if I were having some problems with some civilian employment in the past that I've had, I would go to my boss or go to my immediate supervisor. Frankly, I've never really been thrust into that kind of a situation before. And looking back on it, I might have done things differently. I don't want to elaborate too much because, if I don't want this particular faculty to be thrown on the spot. I'd be more happy to discuss it offline. But I think if I were to do it over again, I would probably see a dean or perhaps a department chair or something like that. But hindsight's always 20/20. But if you'd like to discuss it further after this is over, I'd be happy to.
I have something to add to that. We're taught to, if you have a problem, you go to the next person in charge. So if you're a corporal, you go to your sergeant, and then that's it. And the sergeant will take it from there. So we take that into the college community as well. Our teacher is our next in charge. So when they tell us to do something, we do it. If they say there's no class, we don't go. If there's class, we obviously go. So in order to go to the dean, that's like going to the colonel. Like, we're not just gonna knock on his door and say like, hey, what's up, colonel? So, I've had friends that go to the dean for things I'm just like, why would you take that to the dean? I think that they have bigger fish to fry. As far as his situation, I would have went to the dean just because we trust our teachers like we would trust our chain of command. So we expect our teachers to take care of us, and maybe we shouldn't be so naive, but did you have something?
I've seen other classmates with a similar problem as his, and they're either active duty, taking classes on campus, and then they'll have a certain deployment or some certain compromise that they won't be able to attend a class day. And a lot of the teachers are really good in accommodating that, and they'll make a way for you to take the test before class or hand it in late or something. But you're absolutely right. Other teachers don't understand that for us it's really hard to pick and choose between two things that we have to do. So it'd be great if maybe see like a student-teacher liaison officer, something where we would have somebody else to know to go to the next chain of command, the next person up in the chain of command.
I have a question. Can you hear me? I know one of you mentioned that part of what was difficult was to create that new identity. And my question is, well, two-part question is, what was helpful during that process? Because I know the support of your fellow vets is incredibly helpful. I'm wondering, for those faculty and staff and just peers that don't know about your experience and are trying to get educated to help you, what were the factors or the things that were done that allow that process of creating this new identity to occur more smoothly? And more so, what can we do now to ensure that that happens with all the other vets that are going to be in our colleges?
I think the easiest thing to help me create that new self-identity was obviously, meeting a new social network of veterans on my campus. But the best thing that the faculty and the school and everything they do to help make that transition to create that new identity is right here. And I'm being dead serious. I am being completely serious. I mean, when you're able to meet someone, like I said, that's one semester ahead of you or 2 semesters ahead of you, they have that experience. It's like going to someone that is a higher ranking than you that could lead you through this transition and help you create that identity. And so I guess if you don't have it, and I know you can't just make these overnight, as a faculty member, just be compassionate and be understanding, and I mean, there's I guess to not be ignorant to the situation and to know what kind of questions you could ask, and I guess the biggest thing is there is such thing as a stupid question, if you guys have ever heard that, and so knowing how to approach the situation gently and just being compassionate and doing everything that you can do within your means to help that process be a lot smoother.
Do we have time for one more? Yeah, please. Wait, hold your question just for a second until the microphone comes to you.
Okay, I'm at a community college, and we have a veteran service center, and we're very interested in having our female military participate in specific activities. So I would address this to the females then. What is it that we could do that would encourage you to maybe participate in our veteran service center? What 1 or 2 activities would you see as maybe vital or interesting?
As far as activities go, anything that you offer to the veterans in general, we would more than likely be interested in. But I think that maybe to get us more interested is to call us out. Hey, female veterans, we are having an event. Come do this. I want all female veterans on this campus to attend. And I bet that you'd get a turnout. I think that a lot of us just think that, oh, we're so busy, or they really maybe want just the male veterans. I haven't seen anything just specialized towards the female veterans, but if it's just any veteran organization or something that is set up for us, we would attend.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with her. I would attend to anything. Like I said, get emails all the time, and I will show up to any event. But if you do direct it more towards females, or say females or whatever, it would make us feel a little more special. So that would be about it.
Great. So, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we are out of time for today. I want to thank our student veterans very, very much for being here and for your service.
Thank you guys
Yeah.
for coming here and listening to us. And I looked around and I saw a lot of you taking notes on what we were saying. And to us, just seeing that means a lot. So thank you for coming here.
I agree with what Juan said. It kind of makes me realize that when our teachers tell us to take notes, that they probably appreciate it just as much as we do.
And no one was texting. That was cool.
I'm grateful that somebody was finally stepping up from the high end of the spectrum in the leadership of the community colleges across California to finally pay attention to what we're going through as veterans. We're at a unique time right now. We're in one of the worst economic downturns this country's ever seen. And more vets are entering college now than they have in generations. And it's not an easy transition right now, and I'm very grateful that you all have taken the time to listen to what all of us have had to say. It's much appreciated.
I just want to let you all know it starts with you. So take these, go back to your campus, and make sure that they know that there is a cause for you to fight for.